Millions of Americans, myself included here on the East Coast, have been dealing with a smoky haze coming down from the Canadian wildfires in recent weeks. And predictably, the left has politicized the fires, saying they are the result of climate change. There's a lot of evidence suggesting they are more likely due to poor forest management practices. Satellite images shared on Twitter by Fox 5 evening meteorologist Mike Thomas in Minnesota show the smoke swooping down and heading towards the south and the east coast Friday. Now, one thing no one is talking about, because it is, for the left, an inconvenient truth, these fires have significantly lowered solar power production by over 50% in the U.S. Reporter Paul Saka at The Blaze writes that solar farms powering New England were generating 56% less power during periods of maximum demand than they did the previous week. That's according to the region's grid operator, ISO New England. The operator of the energy grid said, quote, in recent days, smoke from wildfires in Canada has traveled to New England, significantly lowering production from solar resources in the region compared to what ISO New England would expect absent the smoke. The smoke has also lowered actual temperatures in New England compared to what weather models are forecasting. This leads to lower demand on the regional grid, as there is less need for things like air conditioning. Joining me now to discuss what this means for solar energy production, not just in New England, but in other parts of the U.S. affected by the Canadian wildfires, is Thomas Pyle. Now, Thomas is president of the American Energy Alliance, or AEA. The AEA was founded in 2008. It is a nonprofit organization that engages in grassroots public policy advocacy and debates concerning energy and environmental policies. So thank you so much, Tom, for joining me. You have had a long career studying energy policy. Tell me, what are your initial thoughts on these Canadian wildfires? Because we're hearing so much in the media that this is all climate change, and there's just a lot of hype there. It feels like hype to me anyway.
Well, it feels like it because it is. I mean, you might have seen a couple of snippets from some members out west who said, "Welcome to our world." Right? Wildfires are a thing. California is, for hundreds of years, Californians have dealt with wildfires, and particularly out west. And more recently, we've seen more extreme wildfires, not necessarily because of climate change, but because of years and years of mismanagement of our forests, both here in the U.S. and in Canada. It seems wildfires weren't as dramatic when we were actively managing forests, when we were actively managing these areas so that we were not building up this fuel load, so that they become tinderboxes when they go. And quite frankly, if you look at the majority of wildfires, they're usually caused by arson or lightning, right? Something happens, somebody does something stupid, and things start to careen out of control. Now, New York, the Amtrak corridor got a little taste of what happens in a lot of other places, and they sensationalize this and blow this up and make it sound like this is a result of climate change. And I think Americans are getting tired of it, quite frankly.
What does this story from The Blaze tell us about the reliability of solar?
What it says is be warned. What we have seen already in California, now rolling blackouts are a fixture of the system now when they used to be a bug. Very rarely did these things occur. States and areas, regions that are spending all of these, putting all these policies together to mandate renewables. For example, in the New England area, Massachusetts, for example, wants their entire electricity grid to be run by wind and solar to the tune of 50% by 2040. Rhode Island and Vermont want to go even higher, like 75 and 100%. The amount of electricity generated from the sun in New England right now is 3%. So imagine if 40% of it were solar and something like this happened. And this is not just because of haze. I mean, doesn't work when the sun doesn't shine, right? And we still don't have adequate storage solutions to store up that electricity when we don't need it, for example. So these intermittent, unreliable energy sources are not the future. There is a role for them in places, but it is not this fixation about getting rid of natural gas, coal, and oil and replacing it with things that are proven to be more expensive and less reliable is just not an energy policy that works for people. It might work for elites. It might work for the ruling class. It might work for unelected bureaucrats, but Americans, regular everyday Americans, suffer immensely from the higher prices and, quite frankly, the potential someday for them not to have heat in the winter or air conditioning in the summer, or not be able to turn on their uh, respirators or their oxygen tanks or anything like that. So these policies have been tolerated by the folks because it hasn't hit them hard yet. It hasn't, sort of affected them. But as you see from this incident, where 50% of the 3% of the electricity was knocked out because of the fires, uh, that's just a warning sign that we need to be very careful about how we move forward with respect to electricity and energy.
Thank you so much for your insights, Tom. And thank you for fighting for reliable, stable energy, or what I like to say, and you probably too, sort of common sense energy policies. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
If you agree with Tom that America needs to develop our natural resources, please like and share this video with your friends and follow Americans for Limited Government on YouTube and Rumble.